Vandeham Sri Guru.
So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to the Vaishnavi Ministry North America Bond of Love interview series. A Bond of Love, Srila Prabhupada and his daughters, is a beautiful offering of memories, experiences, and inspirations of many of Srila Prabhupada's female disciples. If you do not already have the book, I encourage you to get it. It is available on Amazon in hard copy as well as digital copy. So for today's interview, it is with great reverence and even greater affection that I welcome Her Grace Narayani Devi Dasi. Narayani Dasi is a very humble and highly qualified Vaishnavi who joined ISKCON in Boston in 1970. She served Srila Prabhupada and the devotees in many capacities, including several leadership roles. Narayani Dasi has written books such as Bhagavad-gita at a Glance, Srimad Bhagavatam at a Glance, and Garden of Devotion. She also helped write the Vaishnavi training and education curriculum for Bhakti Sastri. She resides in Sri Vrindavan Dham, but travels the world teaching and preaching in service to her spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, to continue to further Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's prediction of the holy name being heard in every town and village around the globe. So thank you so very much, Narayani Dasi, for being here today and sharing your valuable time and association. Please accept my humble obeisance.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Chinamani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachani Nivashesh Shinyari Prasatade Shitarni.
So after reading your offering in Bond of Love, I was just filled with such a strong sense of wanting to work harder to be a better devotee. It was just so inspiring in that way. You shared so many wonderful memories of Srila Prabhupada in your offering in the book. And I was just wondering, what is your favorite memory of Srila Prabhupada?
Well, actually, I have a couple. The first one is when I first met Srila Prabhupada. It was at the airport in Gainesville, and he was walking, and I was following behind him. And I felt like for the first time in my life, this is where I belong. Before, I never, even at the age of 10, I understood I'm not American, I'm not from here, maybe from another country, maybe from another planet. But one thing I know is I'm not American, I'm not from here. So when I was following Prabhupada, I said, yes, this is where I'm from Prabhupada's family, and I can follow him the rest of my life. And then another memory was when I was Pujari in Calcutta, and we had very opulent flowers. We had 50 garlands every day, and many, many lotuses, 12 dozen lotuses, 144 lotuses, 144 roses, very opulent flowers. So one time at Darshan Arati, Prabhupada was there, and he appreciated the decoration. And he called us up to the Vyasasan, and the Vyasasan, he was on his way to Mayapur. He was surrounded by sannyasis. So we offered obeisances, and then he said, thank you very much for serving. He said Radha Madhava, although they're Radha Govinda. And then later one sannyasi said to us, did you hear, what did he say after you offered obeisances, while you were offering obeisances? And we said, no. And he said, be blessed. So we got the blessings. But then I realized that, okay, I got the blessings today, but next day, I have to earn the blessings again next day. You have to keep on trying to get the blessings. You can't retire at the age of 20, 25, 26, and you got the blessings, still trying to get them.
It's so beautiful. It's such a good reminder to all of us as devotees to look for that blessing, work for that blessing every day, like you just said. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you so much. What did it feel like to be in Srila Prabhupada's presence?
Well, we felt loved, we felt cared for, we felt protected. And when it was actually very interesting to be in a class with Srila Prabhupada, when I would look at him, it looked like he wasn't in this world. I was trying to figure out with my intelligence, okay, is he in another dimension? It looked like a film you were in a theater watching a movie. And I couldn't figure it out. I never could figure out Prabhupada. Everything he did was so different, like we never saw anything like it before. So we were just fascinated when we were with him, just watching his every move. And I heard that one dance teacher in South India saw a video of Srila Prabhupada giving a class. And he showed it to his students and said, watch, he did 25 mudras in this one class. And so Prabhupada was very, very deep. We could not fathom him. And after a while, I realized, well, I can't understand him with my intelligence or my cleverness, only by service. When you serve, then you can understand. That's how knowledge comes in Krishna consciousness.
Yes. That reminds me of how we often hear in text about how only the devotee can truly understand the sacred texts and try to understand Krishna. Yes, it's so beautiful. Yes. Do you remember any particular feelings or emotions that you felt in Srila Prabhupada's presence at any particular time?
Well, yeah. Well, as I think I wrote in my book about Mangalarti. I was doing Mangalarti and I turned around to offer the light, and Prabhupada was standing like 4 inches behind me. So that time I was feeling very nervous, and I think I didn't know what to do. Should I offer the light? Should I do an arti to him? And so I think I did a quick arti and then gave him the light. And so I was feeling very nervous and very attentive. And then afterwards I thought, well, I should do all my service like that. The Prabhupada standing behind me watching me. So yeah, the emotion, I was more in awe and reverence. I didn't have that friendly relationship like some of the older devotees. So just I wanted to make sure that I would do the right thing, that I wouldn't make a mistake. But he would chastise us for our mistakes too. Like one time because in Calcutta there was no electricity most of the time. We had to burn these big, huge ghee lamps full of ghee. And one time he called us, he said, why is the ghee lamp dirty? Who has done this? And, we had to go up to him kind of shaking. You don't want to be around Prabhupada when he's angry. But we had to just be there and take it. And of course, it's the mercy that he's trying to help us in spiritual life, whether he chastises us or blesses us. They're all a blessing, I guess. They're all a blessing. Though at the time you wish you had not made that mistake. You wish you had pleased him. That was our goal, was to please him, make him happy.
Wonderful, wonderful. Can you perhaps share any times where you remember Srila Prabhupada making adjustments as far as time, place, and circumstance?
Yes. Well, I mean, we were in India, and it's they have all these rules and things, and I was the head pujari. I was a woman, so I think that was, and actually in the time when I was there in India, all the pujaris were women, except one exception was Janani Vas in Mayapur. All the temples were women pujaris, and we trained up the men actually in pujari service. So he really he did not worry about what people would think, but people accepted it. We had no problem. No one complained. And I met one Gaudiya Math lady who was also a Pujari, and we got along very well. And we thought, oh yeah, we're both the same. And another thing is that it's not just that Prabhupada made an adjustment for the Western culture. This was going on even in the very strict times 5,000 years ago with the Pandavas. Draupadi was there. She was a Kshatriya lady, and she had huge responsibilities. She just wasn't sitting, cooking the lunch or something and taking care of the kids. She had I can tell you from Mahabharata that Maharaj Yudhisthira used to feed thousands of Brahmins daily, and Draupadi said it was my duty to see their needs were properly taken care of. So she was in charge of food for life, which was Maharaj Yudhisthira's. That wasn't all. She said, I had 100,000 maidservants to assist me, and I knew the names, faces, and capabilities on each and every one of them. I used to direct all these maidservants, and any complaints about them would be submitted personally to me. Okay, so she was in charge. She was temple commander in the palace, and she was food for life. Not only that, besides these maidservants, I knew all the male servants and even the cowherds. So she was in charge of the men too. She was like real temple commander, palace commander. And in fact, she said it was I alone who kept track of my husband's daily income and expenditure. And only I knew the totality of their wealth. So she was the treasurer. She was the accountant for unlimited wealth. And she knew all the servants, and she was food for life. And so this was, it's not something new that Prabhupada made an adjustment. The ladies have a nature also. Some are like Brahminical, some are Kshatriyas. Rukmini, when Krishna kidnapped her, she had to drive the chariot. So Krishna had to fight. And we see in Krishna book, the Vaishya ladies, they knew mantras, how to protect Krishna. The Brahmin ladies, they were singing the mantras of the Vedas. So Prabhupada, it's not something new, but it may be new in the, there's the Varnashram system, which is not following Daiva Varnashram. For them, it's kind of new. They don't understand how these things were practiced in the time, in the ancient times, they were also practiced. And Prabhupada, he did make that, he did allow, there weren't brahmacharinis. Prabhupada created the brahmacharini ashram. And so that was something new, that there were brahmacharini ashram. And now the Christians are imitating us. They always had the nuns. But I saw today online that the nuns were dancing like the devotees too. They started dancing. Anyway, so Prabhupada, his main thing was that he accepted the women, and he engaged us according to our propensities, and he wanted women to be guru also. That's why I'm on the list, and that's why I'm on the list. It's because I know Prabhupada wanted it. He wanted all of his disciples to initiate. He wanted all of us to get the knowledge. He wanted all of us to preach. And he wanted all of us to be guru. He said that many times. And so this is time, place, and circumstance.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I'm looking forward to the day when
Yes.
you're guru. Yes, I think that would be just glorious for all of us, not just the women, but for everyone in this movement, to see that we're following Srila Prabhupada's instructions and his desires in that way. So you have so much experience in this movement. You did so much when Srila Prabhupada was on the planet, and you've done so much. You continue to do so much, even now that he's gone. And I was wondering, what is it about Srila Prabhupada that convinced you to dedicate your life to him, even now, after all these years?
Well, what convinced me was I could see that whatever he said, he did. He walked his talk. He told us to get up early. He got up earlier than we did. We would get up at 3:30. He would get up at 12 o'clock or 1 to translate his books. He traveled more than we did. He didn't care about the jet lag. It didn't affect him. It affected his servants, not him. And he did more. Like one time I went on a morning walk with him, and he walked faster. Like I was, in my 20s, he was in his 70s. And I was trying to figure out, how does he walk so fast? I can't keep up with him. And devotees, we would just look at each other and say, oh, how long is this walk going to take? Because he couldn't keep up with him. So whatever he did, whatever he asked us to do, not only he did it, but he did more. He did much more than we could. And so he loved us. He cared for us. Even he slept less. And he was really mercy incarnation of Krishna, of Radharani, of Nityananda, whoever you prefer. But he definitely showed that mercy. I realized that because when I went on that morning walk, I was late and I was running to catch up. And so finally I caught up to the devotees, sannyasis, brahmacharis. And Prabhupada stopped the whole morning walk, turned around, looked at me, and said, Hare Krishna. I don't know, who am I? I'm just one of thousands, some lady. And but he took the time to acknowledge my presence. He had time for us. He had time for all of us. He was never too busy to speak with us, to take care of us. And so he was my inspiration. And it was very interesting that two things that happened to me when he was here is something that I started to do after he left. And one was write the books, and the other was to speak Bhagavatam. So writing the books was, he was going to he came to Calcutta, and he asked, his Sanskrit scholar Pradyumna asked me if I wanted to go with him, and I said yes. He said, okay, you just have to learn Bengali, and we're leaving tomorrow. I said, no problem, because possible is a word in a fool's dictionary, right? So I learned how to read, and I was off the next day. I typed this Adi Leela, 13th to 17th chapters in 1 month. Well, Prabhupada was in Mayapur in 1973. And Prabhupada, we were living in a building that was under construction. It wasn't finished. So we had no windows, just like holes in the wall. So one time he was walking and he looked in my hole in the wall and saw me typing. And I had this huge Bengali book, Chaitanya Charitamrita, open with headphones on, listening to him. So I would hear him speak Bengali. I would read in the Bengali book, and then I would type in English transliterations. He saw me. He said, "Oh, you know Bengali?" I said, "Yes, Srila Prabhupada." I just learned the day before, well, to read. I didn't really know, but anyway, I wanted to make him happy. He called me to his room and he said, "So I want you to learn to type in Bengali, and we will do many books together." And so I thought, oh, I'll travel with Prabhupada, but it never happened because meanwhile, back in Calcutta, they got a new temple president and all the pujaris left because they were afraid of him. He had a reputation. And so I had to go back and be the head pujari in Calcutta. But that was Govinda calling me, so that's fine. But then 30 years later, I started writing books with Srila Prabhupada. And now I have like 17 books. Picture for every verse of Bhagavatam up to into the 10th canto, and then Gita at a glance and the full Bhagavatam. So that was one. And the other one was in Vrindavan when I went to Nectar of Devotion lectures in 72. Then Prabhupada in a darshan said to me, "So my sister tells me you speak Bhagavatam very nicely." So I was thinking, I was very puzzled. I couldn't reply because I never spoke Bhagavatam and what to speak of nicely. But then I remembered on Jamashtami day, our tradition was to read, everybody had to take turns reading from Krishna book, morning till midnight. So I was reading Ras Leela dance. That was what was my turn. And his sister Pishima was sitting there and she was listening. She didn't know a word of English. I was reading in English and she was crying. And then she told Prabhupada, she speaks Bhagavatam very nicely. So 30 years later, I started speaking Bhagavatam. I started teaching Bhakti Vaibhava and Bhaktivedanta. So I feel like these were That's why I'm still doing it, because he did. It was like a prophecy, or it was like a blessing that I write books and I speak Bhagavatam. And that was from Vrindavan and Mayapur Darshans with Srila Prabhupada.
Just incredible, just incredible. It's so wonderful. It seems as though you were just even empowered to speak Bengali and with those books and everything. It's just...
Yeah, we were. Yeah, we have to accept the empowerment. We're all empowered. But it's a matter if you accept or reject it. So we accepted, yeah, we can do anything because Prabhupada is empowering us.
Wonderful. Yes, and I also love the part about Pishima actually, you know, hearing you give class and not fully understanding the words, but I'm sure she felt your heart and throughout the class, and that's what prompted her to tell Srila Prabhupada that you gave such nice Bhagavatam classes.
Oh, yeah.
So if there were just one thing that you could share about Srila Prabhupada, what would that be?
One thing is that he was pure. He was connected to Krishna. And if we connect with him, we're connected. And we're in the spiritual world. We can go to the spiritual world if we're with him. We just need to connect. And we all have that right. We all have that privilege to connect with Srila Prabhupada. Doesn't matter if you were a disciple, grand disciple. We all have that privilege and that right and opportunity to connect with him.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. There was just a comment on the screen from a devotee, just kind of putting, yeah, there it is. Okay, it's your quote about he has time for all of us, and he was never too busy.
Right.
That's the sense that I've gotten from many of the Bond of Love interviews so far, is that, you know, Srila Prabhupada had so much affection and he cared so deeply for all of his disciples, and it's lovely to hear that from the women, because we've heard so many of the men's stories, but from the women something a little different, a little sweeter, and
yes.
yeah. So for many of us, that's what brings us closer to him, is to hear these sweet stories of affection and love. Yeah. So you've already shared some of how Srila Prabhupada engaged you, but are there any other ways that Srila Prabhupada engaged you in Krishna service?
Yeah. When I went to Bombay, then we were ladies' party going on traveling book distribution. And we were the first devotees. We were the first traveling party. It was the ladies, not the men, who were first. And we were the first pujaris. We were the first traveling book distribution party. So we would go to a village. We were the first devotees that people had ever met. And so they would take the books. They would want the books. But our problem was we just had a small van and it didn't fit many books. So if we ran out of books, we would have to tell them, okay, we're just going back to our hotel and bring more. But we had to get out of town or else we'd start a riot, you know, because we didn't have books. Oh, my God. We don't know what they would do to us. But it was it's like when you were out traveling in book distribution, like you were doing what Lord Chaitanya did when he traveled. You know, we didn't know where we were going to eat or sleep or what we were going to eat or anything, but we were just going out and selling Prabhupada's books. And yeah, so that was another thing. And then so deity worship, book distribution, and then teaching. Bhakti Sastri. I even taught the brahmacharis Bhakti Sastri when their teacher didn't show up in Vrindavan. And then Bhakti Vaibhava and Bhaktivedanta courses. That's my services. And then after that, traveling, of course. I was traveling for the last 10 years until COVID hit, but I'm going to travel again now. After 2 weeks, I'll leave Alachua after being here for 1 year. Trying to go back to Vrindavan and Ireland on the way.
Oh, lovely. That's wonderful. And how has your relationship with Srila Prabhupada deepened over the years?
Well, I can give you one experience I had. When I first came to Vrindavan, I had been a pujari, I had done book distribution. I didn't know what my service was going to be. And I had my son, I took care of my son for 7 years, and he went to the Gurukul. So I was praying for service. And I thought, well, I don't know what service I'm going to do now. This is before I was teaching. And then I thought, okay, I just like to read the books. So I'm going to read the books. And then after a few months of reading and chanting, and I also did my own japa work, reform, listening attentively, I got the inspiration that, okay, you like to read the books, you should share what you read. And so I thought, yes, okay. And then, so then I took a class in public speaking because I was terrified, to speak in public. So I never had given a class the first 27 years I was a devotee. So, yeah, so I did that. And devotees very, very much appreciated my speaking. So I thought, okay, maybe I should teach. But I thought, well, I wish Prabhupada would give me some sign that, this is what I should do. So I was searching for answer. I went to Prabhupada's Samadhi in Vrindavan, and there was a tape playing Prabhupada's lecture. He said, do you think the deities are made of stone? I said, oh, no, Prabhupada, you're here. I believe you're here. But I need some personal instruction. And then he says in the lecture, do you think the Goswamis were worshiping stone? I said, no, Prabhupada. I believe you're here. I just need some answer. So then I got the inspiration to go to Prabhupada's house. I thought, okay, every day they change the letters there. Maybe there's something in a letter that will give me some direction. I went there, sure enough. And the letter said, now you are one of my senior devotees, senior disciples. I'm counting on you. You have learned the art of Krishna consciousness. Now go and teach it purely for the benefit of others. Well, I said, okay, I should teach. The problem was, that was in 1994 in Vrindavan. Ladies could not give class in the temple. They could not attend the Bhakti Sastri. It was only for men in the Vrindavan Institute for Higher Education. So I said, okay, well, but I know I have to teach. So I started doing it I was living in somebody's house. But after a few months, the guard said, you can't have people coming here. This is a private house. And so then I said, okay. So then I went on the roof of the Krishna Balaram guest house, and I was teaching up there. So after a year, I got a place. And then for 2 years, I taught in the place where I got. And then after 3 years, they asked me to teach in the VIHE for the women's Bhakti Sastri. So when you have no facility, it's not that you can't do what you're supposed to do. You just have to make facility, that's all. And that's how we learned in the old days. We didn't have money, we didn't have facility. We just made it. We went on the streets and chanted and sold books, and we got facility. So you should never give up. There's no impediment to you doing anything in spiritual life. It doesn't matter if you think you're a woman, okay, you got a problem. But we are spiritual beings, and there's no impediment for a spirit soul to do some service for Krishna. Nothing can stop you. And that's what the message I would like to say. That's how my relationship deepened, that I could understand Prabhupada is still with us. He's still here. He's still guiding us. We can take that guidance anytime. And he's available. He has time for us. And but it's up to us to take that opportunity to be receptive to his mercy.
Well, thank you so very much for that instruction. Yes, as Gail said, there's a comment here posted. It is so very inspiring to hear you say that. And yes, such beautiful determination to serve. And I very much appreciate what you said about, making facility when we think it's not available. It's always available to us in some way. So thank you so very much for that. My next question is, do you believe that it is important for the next generation of devotees, those devotees who are not disciples of Srila Prabhupada, do you feel that it's important for us to develop a relationship with Srila Prabhupada? And if so, why?
Yes, it's very, very important because we are related to him. Prabhupada, when we go to the spiritual world, they're going to ask you, so who sent you here? Who do you know? And it's going to be Prabhupada. Yeah, oh, yeah, okay. You can come in then. So he will lead us he will take us to Krishna. And he's available for all of us. Doesn't matter, you're a disciple, grand disciple, we're all the family, we're in the family. And he has, he's taking care of us. So we have to be determined to access his mercy. You can pray to his murti, and you can pray to his picture. You can listen to his voice on recordings. And the most important thing is to follow his instructions to chant 16 rounds, because everything is in the chanting. When we chant the holy name, then we can reach Krishna directly. It's really interesting that if you read the books, it explains that Supersoul is a reservoir of all intelligence. So how do we access that reservoir of intelligence? Because sometimes they say, oh, women are less intelligent. But if you chant Hare Krishna, then you can access that reservoir of intelligence. And I can give you an example from my life. Because I was teaching Srimad Bhagavatam, sometimes I would get a verse I would not understand. So then I would read the verse and I would chant one round, and then I would get so much realization, which I could not have thought of. So the chanting really connects you. And one time I had a whole chapter, this chapter on time and the third canto. And it was a very difficult chapter. I could not figure it out. So I chanted all my 16 rounds, read the chapter, chanted all my 16 rounds. And then I got a whole chart, which I gave to the class. I gave to the class a whole chart on the time, this time, that time. And it really works. You can increase your intelligence. You can increase your determination. You just have to chant attentively. And that's the gifts that Prabhupada gave us. And that's why you have to make a relationship with Srila Prabhupada. Be grateful to him. Thank him every day for what he gave us, the books. And the books are to convince us to chant. He said one time, Sankirtan will make you happy, and the books will make you convinced. And so we need to read the books. Also, that's his ecstasies. That's his ecstasies. The purports are his ecstasies. And they also connect us to Krishna. They connect us to the name, to the chanting, to the form, to everything. So these are very wonderful gifts. And you can be guaranteed that at the end of your life, you will go back to Godhead. I can give you an example of one devotee living in Vrindavan. Her name was Nanda. And she went there to leave her body in Vrindavan. She had multiple sclerosis. So it took 20 years to leave her body. And she was very incapacitated. Sometimes she couldn't. She said she didn't even have the strength to pick up her bead bag and put her hand in there. But she was determined. She was always listening to lectures, to tapes. She was always trying. She was trying her best, even though she couldn't do everything perfectly like you're supposed to do. So before she left her body, she had a vision of Srila Prabhupada. And she was walking on the path back to Godhead, and Prabhupada was next to her. On two sides of the path, people were criticizing her and saying, oh, she didn't chant her 16 rounds every day. Oh, she didn't do this. She didn't do that. Oh, she's just a Westerner. How can she make advancement? Then Prabhupada turned to those people and he said, it's all right. She's with me. So We gotta be with Prabhupada.
Mm.
That's what so she was not a Prabhupada disciple. I think her guru was Hridayananda Maharaj. Her guru was Hridayananda Maharaj. And yeah, she made it back to Godhead because she was determined and she had a relationship with Srila Prabhupada. And we can all do that. We can all make it. We can pass the test. But we do need to develop that relationship with Srila Prabhupada. And with his books, with the holy name, and with his devotees that he left behind, whatever he left behind, his temples, the deities. They're all here for us to make a relationship and go back to Godhead and be perfect and in this life. He told us so many times, finish in this life. Don't wait for another birth. And that is very, you may not make it in your next life. So we should finish in this life. And we had faith that we were going to finish. In fact, it was so funny. When I first joined, before I came to the temple, one devotee, I think it was Pradumna, the scholar. So he was telling me about all the levels, Shraddha to Prema. There's first faith, Shraddha, then association, Sadhusanga, Bhajana Kriya, you follow the rules and regulations. Then Anartha Nivriti, you have a few obstacles you have to overcome. Then comes Nishta, you're firm. Then Ruchi, taste. And then after taste comes Asakti, attachment. And then Bhava, ecstasy, and Prema. So my question to him was, so what level are you on? He said, I'm on Ruchi, taste. But, now after and we thought, we're going to see Krishna face to face in 2 or 3 years. We thought, that's how we thought in the early days. We thought it was just around the corner. But we did feel Ruchi. We were so happy. We were 10 hours out in the street chanting Harinam. And we didn't feel our bodies hardly. I know one time somebody asked me, you feeling okay? And I said, well, actually, I can't really tell. Maybe I have a fever, or maybe it's just ecstasy. I don't know. That's how we were in those days. Yeah, and they were telling me about all the queens of Krishna. Jadharani was telling me about Krishna book. Krishna married 16,108 wives. And I said, only? Like room for one more. We didn't think, oh, how could he do such a thing? No, we thought, wow, no, there should be more. So we were really thinking we were going to be up there really fast. But after 51 years of practicing, I can say that if I could just get to Nishta, firm faith, that would be a good thing. That would be helpful. And I do have faith that they will come. And yes, and all of you can do it too.
Your lips to Krishna's ears. We're trying, yes, with the inspiration of devotees like you who have such determination and such dedication to Srila Prabhupada's mission. You will help us all get there. You will help us get there. So one thing I think I already mentioned to you is that I really appreciated the way that you ended your offering in Bond of Love, when you spoke about how sometimes when devotees were hesitant or afraid to continue in spiritual life, that Srila Prabhupada would give that little push that you needed to take the next step. And can you think of any times in particular when Srila Prabhupada gave you that push to get you to move forward?
Well, he gave me that push to join the temple, actually, because in 1970, there was no such thing as being a devotee outside of the temple. If you were not living in the temple, you were in Maya. So, yeah, I wasn't, I met the devotees in March. And then I wasn't really ready because my husband wasn't, so inclined to Krishna consciousness. He would come to the temple, but he wasn't like he didn't want to join. So then I think March, April, May, June, 3 months later, they told me, so Prabhupada is coming. Why don't you stay for the weekend? And I said, okay, I'll stay for the weekend. And then I stayed for the weekend. And the next day when he was supposed to come, he called and said, oh, I'm not able to come, but I'm sending 4 sannyasis instead. Oh, wow. So that was Brahmananda Gargamuni, Subal, and Vishujan Maharaj. So we went out on Harinam with Vishujan Maharaj the whole weekend, morning till night. And that was it. That was the push I needed to join the temple. I was so happy. And so after the weekend finished, and I thought, I'm so happy. Why should I leave? So I went and said goodbye to my husband and joined the temple. And he joined 2 months later because his philosophy was, I won't work. And he had the hippie philosophy. I was working. When I left, he had to join because he couldn't follow his philosophy. Devotees didn't work. So, and he's also a devotee. Just takes people sometimes longer. I got initiated before him also. But then, yeah, that was the push. A very interesting thing happened that weekend was that not only me, but so many people joined that weekend. A lot of us stayed the weekend. Maybe 4 or 5 of us joined. We never went back home after that weekend. That was it. And that was the push that we needed to join Krishna consciousness.
Well, yes, that's also another valuable thing to hear. So often we as devotees get to a place in our practice where we're maybe not feeling like we're making progress, or we feel kind of stuck. And so it's important to get that extra push that we need.
Yeah, definitely. And all along the way, you need it to keep going. Yeah. Push to do deity worship, push to write the books, push to speak Bhagavatam. That was a real push. That was a real push when I read that letter on his desk then, because I was just like, I thought, oh my God, I have to speak. And I never spoke. And yeah, it took me a while to adjust to that. And that was another huge push. And to just start speaking, giving classes. All along the way was a push. Yeah.
That's just amazing. And is there anything else that you would share with us? In your many years of practicing Krishna consciousness, that perhaps from maybe your experiences or anything else from your time? Oh, it looks like we may have lost. So in the meantime, let's hope that Narayani joins us soon. But in the meantime, I'll read a bit from her offering in Nectar. I'm sorry, her offering in Bond of Love. So this is the pastime that she actually shared with us already, but I just wanted to read it the way that she had written it in the book.
Okay, somehow I got cut off.
Okay, I was just about to read some of what you had written in the book, but please go ahead and share anything else that you can. I was asking you. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, there was one more memory that I would like to share, and that was about the deity worship in Calcutta. And we had 2 altars. One was Gaur Radha Govinda and the other was Jagannath. Mm-hmm. So we had open windows behind the deities. And so every day, 2 bumblebees would come on Radha Govinda's side. And they would circumambulate the deities and sit in we had these huge lotus flowers. So they would sit in the lotus flowers. And every day on Jagannath's side, small bees would come and sit on the garlands. So I was reading third canto at that time, and I thought, wow, it's just like Vaikuntha. We got Vaikuntha on one side and Goloka on the other side, because the bees used to come to Radharani. So then Prabhupada said, when the bees are coming to the worship, that means Krishna is pleased with the worship. So I wanted to share that. And I wanted to share another thing about one devotee, Kunti Devi. She left her body, and she got cancer of the breast, and her cancer spread very viciously, went into her spine, her organs, and crippled her. And the doctor said, there's nothing anyone can do. You have 6 months to live. And she was paralyzed, and she was racked with pain. But she was always smiling, always encouraging, making everyone happy. She was so blissful, positive. And the local TV station heard about it. They met her, and they'd never seen anything like this in their life. Half-an-hour program. And the hostess was just praising her. And Kunti Devi was talking to the people, giving lectures about the beauty of life, the beauty of bhakti, the good fortune of anyone who has Krishna. And the hostess asked her, how could you be so happy when you're in such a condition? She replied, because I know I'm the soul. I'm eternal. This body is just a temporary situation, and this situation is bringing my soul closer to God. Therefore, I'm rejoicing and I'm happy. According to the doctor's diagnosis, her physical symptoms and everything else was hopeless and miserable except one thing, her consciousness. And when she left, she was surrounded by devotees chanting the holy names. And one devotee had a vision of the airplanes coming down, the swan airplanes coming down to get her. So we just have to keep trying to be devotees in this life. Try to serve, try to chant, try to read Prabhupada's books, and that will make us happy, and we will go back to Godhead. So does anybody else have questions?
Yes, I think that there are a couple of questions. Shamasaki Wilson, can you see that one?
Okay.
First from Moksha Lakshmi. What year did the Bombay?
What year did the Bombay ladies go traveling? Oh, yeah, that was in the 80s, like 81. But even before the Bombay ladies went, Radha Kund in Gujarat was going out before that.
Wow.
So she was probably going in the 70s. Radha Kund would know that. We went out like 81, and we were also not just traveling. We were going to all the train stations in Bombay, also at the different train stations. And we would travel to Maharashtra, Gujarat, Rajasthan. I think Radha Kund was before us. She was going out in the 70s. But we were in the 80s, 81, 82. There's a picture of me on Facebook with a camel over my head. That was out on traveling in Kirtan somewhere, probably Gujarat.
Yes, and I think there's one other question. Let's see. There it is. From Ishandri.
Could you say something why women were not allowed to attend the Bhakti Sastri course that time, please? I have no idea why, because I was not in the VIHE at that time. I don't know why. We were allowed to attend the Bhagavad Gita. I was attending the Bhagavad Gita class. We could not attend Ishopanishad or the other three, Nectar Devotion or Nectar of Instruction. And we could not take the tests at all. So, yeah, I don't know why. No idea. Women were teaching. I mean, they were giving, like in Kartik, I know Jagatrini gave some classes. But you couldn't do Bhakti Sastri, teach or attend. I don't know why. It's a very good question. Only those people who were in charge would know why. But I did my best. I attended the Gita classes because they were open, actually, although you couldn't take the test. So after I taught, the first year after I taught, I took the test. Somebody else made the test, and I had to take the test with the students because in fact, that's all the things I taught. I never took the course, but I just taught it. Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhaktivedanta. But because those who teach the course can also get the diploma, we don't have to take the test. Because, I mean, we wrote books. We didn't just write essays, you know. We wrote books and we spoke so much. And so we're doing much more. And that first, our Bhaktivedanta class, from that class, 2 sannyasis came out. 2 sannyasis came out. And the leader of Nepal, and so many wonderful, and 2 brahmacharis stayed brahmachari, 2 became grihastas. But it was a very wonderful experience. We did have sannyasis attending sometimes also. One time I got complaints because I was sick and I couldn't have the class late. I had to have it at 8 in the morning. So the temple was complaining because they wanted my students to give the Bhagavatam class. They couldn't go because they had to go to my class. That was very funny. Now we give class. Now women are giving class in Vrindavan temple. And Gita class, Gita and Bhagavatam.
Yes. I've been to a couple of those classes. Yes, and taking Bhakti Sastri course as well.
Right, yeah. It's just a matter of time, because nobody can stop the power of spiritual energy, the power of devotional service. Nobody can stop it. We couldn't attend in those days, but that didn't stop me from teaching. And, you know, I didn't complain. I just did it. Just do it. You know, that's the slogan they have. Just do it, and you will get the facility. And after teaching for 3 years out of the temple, I started traveling to Europe and teaching. I think that first year, 60. Yeah, I can't remember which. 68, 69, I started. No, anyway, I can't remember. 98, 99, yeah. 97, I taught. 98, I started traveling. So facility came. You make facility, and then the door opens for you. The door opens. But the door is already open, actually. But we just have to be receptive and walk through it. The door is open. Any service you want to do, nobody can stop you.
Thank you. I see. And we also, there's actually another question that popped up. And then I also have another one that came to me. So, yes, if you want to take that one first.
Okay. Could you tell where the quote is, Super Soul is a reservoir of all intelligence? Oh, yes. That is in Bhagavatam 2nd Canto, 2nd chapter. And it may be verse 35. I'm not sure. I could look it up. I think you'll still see me. You still see me?
We do.
Or no?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I'm looking this up on database. I think it's 2:35, but it may be around there. Yes, here we go. It's 2:35. This verse is, the personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, is in every living being along with the individual soul. And this fact is perceived and hypothesized in our acts of seeing and taking help from the intelligence. Then in this purport, Prabhupada explains that the super soul is the reservoir. It's a form of our intelligence. It's the reservoir of our intelligence. And he tells how you can actually perceive the super soul logically from that purport. It's a reservoir. Let's see, where am I? I don't even know where I am. Here I am. Okay, now I see you.
Okay. Wonderful. And there's one more question that came. It says, we see Srila Prabhupada's disciples have so much love for each other. We in our God family don't have that love. What is going wrong?
Well, I think you need to chant together. Prabhupada, when there were problems in Bombay temple, then Giraj Maharaj was the president. He went to Prabhupada. He was a brahmachari then. He said, Prabhupada, we have so many problems. What should we do? Prabhupada said, okay, you just have 12-hour kirtan once a week. So they started that. And Maharaj noticed that when the devotees got together and did kirtan together, then, when it was the time, then they forgot their problems, and nobody came to him with problems because he would have them come, a couple of days right after the kirtan. And then there were no problems. Nobody came to complain because they were still affected by that kirtan. And so, yeah, more kirtan, more chanting, more reading together, doing Krishna conscious things together is very, very helpful. We were all together, like out on Harinam, book distribution, doing everything. Oh, and on the last question, I would like to add one thing that Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, that the super soul, he says, I am. From me comes intelligence, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So in Gita also, the super soul is the source of intelligence. And and he's the form of intelligence. Our intelligence we get from super soul. Actually, there's another thing I could tell you about that. There was one devotee who wrote to Prabhupada that, you want me to translate books into German? I don't know German. And then he said, oh, Prabhupada wants me to arrange it. So then he wrote back to Prabhupada and said, so how can I do this? And Prabhupada said, just chant Hare Krishna and the answers will come from within you. And this devotee said, Prabhupada told us that there is an individual genius in each and every one of us. And so this devotee looked up genius, individual genius. We all have genius inside of us. So this devotee went to the dictionary and looked up what the word genius means. And a very interesting definition it gave, that was 50 years ago, I don't know about now, indwelling deity. That is genius. Genius is indwelling deity. It's super soul. We all have super soul in us. We all have genius in us. And we can access that by chanting attentively, reading, and just doing these simple things that Prabhupada gave us to do.
Wow.
Let's see. Can you tell us where? Okay, yeah, that we did.
Yeah, we posted that question. And thank you so much for the instruction to chant together. That's such a powerful thing to do. I'm very fortunate to have a sangha every morning with devotees, and we chant together through Zoom. But it's such a powerful thing to chant with other devotees, and I've had that experience also in Vrindavan as well. It's just like you said before about chanting, it just brings us closer together. It brings us closer together, and of course closer to Krishna. There's one more question I just want to read to you. It says, oh yes, if you could please speak about the books that you have written. Are they commentaries to Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavadgita? And how do you feel about Srila Prabhupada's presence in your life?
Okay, well, as far as the books go, they're not commentaries, but they're pictorial descriptions. Like there's a picture for every verse in Bhagavatam. So you have a picture, and then there's poetry for each verse. So it's more of a cultural presentation. 2 minutes. Someone just wants to come in. So it's more of a cultural presentation rather than a commentary. I've made the verses into poetry, and we've made a picture for every verse. So you can see each verse of the Bhagavatam. You can see each verse of the Gita. And what was the last part of the question? How
do you feel about Srila Prabhupada's presence in your life?
How do I feel about it? Well, I couldn't live without it. So whenever I'm in trouble, I try to try to pray to him and try to remember him. And then that helps cool me down and pacify me, my crazy mind.
Yes, and Kamaniya Devi, I don't know if you see, she wrote, "What a treat to be able to hear from Mother Narayani. Thank you so much. Yes, such profound wisdom, and she shares so sweetly." Yes, this is very true. Thank you. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Kamaniya.
Thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to speak.
Yes, and thank you so much for being here again, sharing your valuable time, your valuable association, and sharing everything that you have shared, your experiences and thoughts about Srila Prabhupada. And again, just your presence here today has been inspiring, I'm sure, for everyone who's watching. So thank you so very much, Narayani Devi Dasi. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhyayevacha patita nam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Vande